Hi, everyone. Wow, this is crowded. This is a very crowded room. And look, each and every one of you had an opportunity to choose something else. And you chose to be here, and I'm very grateful. Thank you, each and every one of you. So I hope this turns out to be a great place for you to be right after lunch. I know many of you might have that little lunch coma thing and might be taking a nap, and it's okay. It's all right. If you close your eyes, I will not be offended by it. I'm not that easily offended in any way. And let's see if this works. Wouldn't it be terrible if the slides didn't work? Would make it work anyway. So this is change your language, change your mindset. And just so you, wow, this room is, I'm going to can I take a picture of you guys? Can we take a selfie? Well, I don't know if we can do a selfie or not, but let's see. This is awesome. Dun, dun, dun. Look at it. Oh, maybe I should turn around this way, huh? Look at that. There we go. That's a lot of people. Everybody smile. Make funny faces. We are. I love that. I love that. You guys are going to be in trouble, aren't you? I like that. Okay. All right. So let's see. So we got 44 minutes because I just wasted one. Anyway, thank you all for being here. I see some wonderful faces, some folks I know. I'm grateful for each and every one of you. If you have any thoughts afterwards, please come find me. I'd love to shake your hand, hug, talk to you, whatever. I see somebody I used to work with. There's Dan Texera. Dan Texera is a brilliant man. Everybody say hi, Dan. Hi, Dan. I used to work for Dan. I am what is known as a management challenge. He'll tell you about that. So he and I, we had our first conversation about my ADHD. So that was fun. Yeah, he's shaking his head. He was like, yeah, you were a challenge. But but it's okay. There's some others. Jess Brock's supposed to be here, one of my coworkers. Where is she? Jess, there. All right, everybody say hi to Jess. She just got here late. Everybody say hi, Jess. There we go. She is brilliant. She's doing a talk on dojo coaching, and it's not theory. You guys have heard the theories about dojo coaching? No, she's done it. She's been through it, and hard knocks, wins, failures. Definitely talk to her in a couple hours. So she's brilliant. Hi, Jess. Great to have you here. Anyway, so before we get started on change your language, change your mindset, love to tell you a little story. So I used to live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, back in the mid to late 90s. I know you guys probably think I was like 4 years old then, but you know I'm old. And it was cold outside. I don't remember the month, but it was cold. And I worked for a company called DCC, Data Communications Company, small company, about 80 people. And there was one conference room, a conference table. It was actually in Mike's office. He was the owner, really nice guy, brilliant guy. And we were sitting around the table. There was me, Mike, Mr. Thomas, a couple of sales guys. And Mr. Thomas, big fella, big man, always wore a blue suit, white shirt, and red tie. I know I identified 8 different blue suits, but he still always wore a blue suit. I don't know how many ties, I didn't keep track. And I was shocked one day when I was at Byerly's grocery store in Minneapolis. It was a Saturday, about 10:30 in the morning. His wife sent him out to pick up something for brunch, and I was shocked to see him wearing normal clothes, what most people do on Saturday. A blue suit, white shirt, and red tie. And so he was going on and on and on. He was droning on and on about something. And when he talked, he had this class ring. Always banging that damn ring. It used to drive me crazy. And I think he did it just to keep the floor. And so he was talking, rambling on for, 3 minutes, 30 minutes. I have no idea because everybody just blacks out when he starts rambling. And about how we should stay the course, how we shouldn't change, how we shouldn't invest in these new products. And so eventually, once he took a break, Mike, the brilliant owner of the company who everybody loves and follows, simply said, "What's the worst that could happen?" And I was shocked because for the first time, worked with this guy for 18 months. First time I saw Mr. Thomas stop and think. Not the first time that day, but the first time ever. He stopped and think. And I could see over the corner of my eye, one of the sales guys, Greg, Cheshire smile. He was on the verge of just cracking up. And so Mr. Thomas started, well, we don't know this, we don't know that. And I was like, wait a second, but we know a lot. We don't know everything yet, but we know a lot. And I didn't realize what was happening, but everything changed. Everything changed in 60 seconds. The whole mood of the conversation changed, and we ended up investing $3,500 in this crazy thing called the internet, in some data security products, and a year later, we ended up making over $3.5 million in revenue based on that single investment because we went forward and made it. I did not know at that time that Mike asked a powerful question. All I knew is he asked a very simple question, and things changed. I did not know I was embracing a growth mindset by saying we don't know everything yet, but here's what we do know, and here's what we can know. I didn't know anything about it. All I knew is things changed. So because of that started me on my path of how to go forward and change things. And if we didn't have that conversation, that company would not have made $3.5 million on the internet. They would still be the #1 supplier of pagers in the Midwest, which we were. And we were also the second largest supplier of Novell networks. Y'all got Novell networks, right? Most of you don't even know what the hell I'm talking about, do you? Yeah, that's how old that technology is. So we moved on past it. Anyway, we're going to start with a couple of very simple. Wouldn't it be nice if the clicker worked? Oh, hang on. Remember, I was joking. I said if the slides don't work, so maybe they're not. Oh, there we go. All right. So first of all, let's align ourselves on what is a mindset. And so did some research, because we always hear agile mindset, right? Lean agile mindset. How many people have heard that? Do you know what it means? Ask a group of coaches. You ask one coach, you might get one answer. You ask two coaches, you get 4. You ask 3 coaches, you get 9 answers. I ask a group of coaches, I can't get a straight answer. So it's just a person's way of thinking and their opinions. It's right there in Merriam-Webster. And Cambridge Dictionary says it's a mental attitude or inclination. Simple. I love it. Simple as that. And one of the most common methods for mindset is the glass half empty, glass half full. You guys heard of this one? Right? So it's, 2 people can look at the same thing. One can focus on all the wonderful things that they have in the glass. Somebody else could say, you know what? The glass is half empty. I want twice as much wine. And there's only that much. So, it all depends. So your mindset changes a lot. And it was kind of funny. I had a couple coaches, because you know how coaches are. They were complaining that this was not a good analogy or a good metaphor. And that day I was having a conversation with the director, and the director said, I know I'm being very glass half empty today. I was like, yeah, maybe it does work. So now let's take a look at another definition, agility. How many times do we talk about agility or agile, and you get like this rambling on and on definition of it? But it's really very simple. Agility is just our ability to respond to change. That's it. Now, I like to add, while continuing to provide value. Because this fella here, he's fallen down. He's responding to change, but he's not providing any value to his teammates or his stakeholders or the customers. And Agile focuses on providing the most value for customers. The most value, more quickly, that's it. No matter what else you're doing, if you're talking about all kinds of other things, you're worried about your frameworks, your metrics, those are all wonderful as long as you don't lose sight of you need to provide more value to your customers. If you're doing that, everything's great. Questions? Okay, there we go. You guys know this guy? I love this face. He's one of the smartest men I've ever met. And so Alistair Cockburn, he was one of the original signatories of the Agile Manifesto. He's also been extremely vocal about its misuse. And just a couple years after the Agile Manifesto was signed, he was like, we're forgetting the purpose of it. He says, Agile is an attitude. It's not a technique with boundaries. So we need to start asking ourselves, how would I act in an agile way here? And how agile can we be here? It's very simple. That's where he's applying the mindset, the attitude that we just talked about. So it's not that complicated. So now let's talk about the language in your head. How many of you have a voice in your head? Okay. All right, how many of you have more than a dozen voices in your head? So, there we go. And how many of you do the bad things your voices tell you to do? Okay, all right, there we go. Just got my eye on you now. I knew you guys were going to be trouble. So I was surprised that some people have a quiet mind. I don't. I'm never alone. I always have somebody talking to me. And even when I talk to myself, I'm like, self, so, but what is the language in your own mind? Because the language in your own mind can have a major impact on you, your own mindset, and on those around you. And even if you don't have a voice in your head, or if you only have one or two, as opposed to dozens, you can still talk to yourself and think about the ways that you're saying things. So one of the things I love is this concept of fixed mindset and growth mindset. And if you look at the concepts, if you look up mindset in the dictionary, you're going to come here. If you look up, you're going to come to these two conclusions. The fixed mindset and the growth mindset, they came from Carol Dweck. She wrote this wonderful book called Mindset. Highly recommend it. But she also does some fabulous videos on YouTube. You can find some information on it. But it's absolutely brilliant. And the fixed mindset was the concept of skills are fixed, and that's pretty much it. And the growth mindset is skills can be learned. And she did a study with a group of children in Chicago, I believe it was, elementary school kids, and split them up into two groups. Gave them both a difficult test, same test. One group, when they completed, regardless of what they did, they were told, "You did great. You must be smart." They told the other group, "You did great. You must have studied hard, and you can do better." And they continued to give them tests more and more difficult, and the group that they told, "You did well because you're smart," barely improved. The group that they told, you did well because you worked hard and you can do better, drastically improved. So it was the concept of some folks felt that they had, this is all I'm good at. I'm great at this, I don't need to study, it doesn't help, doesn't do me any good. So my son is 13, when COVID hit, we had a field behind our house, lucky there, and we used to go play soccer every day. I was home, we'd go play soccer. I think he was 10 or 11 at the time. He's 13 now. We still play soccer. I'm getting much better at soccer. My son is getting much better. Yes, even at my age, I can get better. Okay. You can teach an old dog new tricks. So I'm getting better. But now, let's face it, neither one of us are ever going to be Messi, right? We're not going to be the world's greatest because that does come with some talent as necessary. But we are drastically better at soccer today than we were 3 years ago, both of us. I'm better at ping pong than I was 6 months ago when I started playing with my son on a regular basis. Anything that you practice, you can get better at. Now, I want to extend this mindset concept to this guy. How many know Simon Sinek? Start with why, right? We all think of start with why. It's the third most popular TED Talk in history. It's brilliant. But he wrote this book called The Infinite Game. And The Infinite Game is my favorite book on Agile, and I don't think he ever mentions Agile or agility. I don't think he mentions it once. I've listened to the book twice. I've read it once. I can't find him using the word Agile. But the focus is on constantly improving. Whatever goals you hit today, whoopee. Now you need to focus on the next one. What's next? The game continues. And you don't necessarily need to compete against others. You need to compete against yourself. You always focus on, you get it, you get it. She's shaking her head. She's the one with like the 12 voices in her brain. So who knows which one is talking to her right now. But so Simon Sinek wrote the book, The Infinite Game, and that's where I believe we have an agile mindset, which is different than a fixed or growth mindset. So fixed mindset, your skills are pretty much fixed. You're either good at something or you're not. Growth mindset, you can learn to do just about anything, but an agile mindset, based on the definitions we just had, focuses on providing more value. It's value focused. Yes, I can learn to do something, but is it the right thing I should be learning now? Maybe I should be learning something else. Maybe something's going to provide more value to my customer. So it's really that simple. All right, these are pretty simple concepts, aren't they? But we confuse the hell out of them. And I don't know why. Well, because we're coaches and we like to confuse things. So if we think about some of the language that might go along with it, and the language can be very important because you can hear it in your own voice, you can hear it in your teams, you can listen for it. You know, fixed mindset, I'm good at this, I'm not good at this. We've heard that, right? Yeah. And this is how we do it. How many times have you been asking people, why do we do it? Well, this is just how we do it. We can't change it. This is how we do it, right? And what we do is, I hate that statement. I hear it all the time. And then we are Agile. Dan, how many times have you talked to a new team and heard, oh, we're already Agile. We don't need your help. Or we went to a class to be Agile. And that voice in my head says, well, you need to get your money back. Because obviously, if you think you are, you didn't. You didn't achieve it. So, or that's not Agile. That is Agile. You've heard that one, right? That's not Agile? Yeah. So think about it. Maybe that is pretty fixed. And a growth mindset, we think, I'm not good at this yet. Right? I may not be great at soccer yet, but I'm getting better. I'm getting much better at ping pong. I've been practicing that with my son. And we can do this if. I love that statement. I love hearing teams say, we can do this if this comes off our plate, if we have this tool, if we learn this, if we change priorities, as opposed to, no, we can't do that. All right, so what are the options? And sometimes you need a little time, but then, and the constant thought of we can be more agile. Right? So a smart team, when I talk to them, I meet them for the first time, they know they can be more agile. We all know we can be more agile, but we forget. Oh, no, we're already agile, we don't need your help. No, we did this to be agile. Or we have our daily stand-ups. Right? We do story points, so we're agile. But from the language of an agile mindset, it is a subset of growth mindset. You have to have a growth mindset. You have to be able to learn. But we change that a little bit, and we should be asking, should we be learning this now? We know we can learn to do this. We know we don't know how to do it yet, but we know we can. But is it the right thing to do now? Will it provide the most value? Right. So we can change that. And how can we do this better? This is also one of my favorites. How can we do this better? And and what can provide the most value now? These are just some of the things that we can hear when teams are really in a good mindset. And these are some of the phrases that we can use to help our teams get to a better mindset or a different mindset. You guys are taking pictures? Would you guys send me pictures? See, there's my camera. I'm always the guy behind the camera. I don't have any pictures of me doing this presentation. So I would love that if you guys do. Just FYI. Yes, Jess. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Uh-oh. So there we go. So try some of these phrases and listen to them. And now one thing that's really important is whatever mindset you're in. I should add this line. I should have mentioned it here. Whatever, I know, I'm going back, okay. So whatever mindset you're in today, you may not be in that mindset tomorrow. And it's okay, right? We don't always have to be in this agile mindset of focusing on improving value. We don't always have to be there. Some days you won't. Some days you're going to wake up and it's just, you know what? We have change fatigue. I don't feel like learning anything new. Can I just stop thinking and just do what we've learned? That becomes a very fixed mindset, but it's okay. What's important is knowing where you are. When I had the director talk to me and say, you know what, I know I'm being very glass half empty today, he wasn't saying he's always going to be glass half empty. He was recognizing where he is at the moment. And it was like, okay, we're going to stay there today. That's where we're going to be during our one-on-one. And where do you want to be tomorrow? And so we'll focus on that. It's okay. You're going to go back and forth. You are going to have good days. Your team's going to have good days. Everybody's going to have good days. Good days, bad days. So there we go. All right. Oh, here we go. Now, some other types of language that we can use to make changes in our own mindset and that of others. How many of you are familiar with clean language? Okay. How many of you are familiar with neuro-linguistic programming, NLP? Okay. Now, there's a major difference between the two, and I always want to point that out. They both use metaphors. They're both designed to help us relate and anchor to our own past experiences. The difference is, with neurolinguistics programming, it's all about me getting the results I want from you. Yes, Roger, I want you to do what I'm doing, which is great for therapy.
I'll do it.
See, he's done already. He's easy. Which is great for, yes, sir. I'm sorry, what?
Not cursing.
Oh, it, it kind of is. It kind of is not cursing, but clean language is a way that we remove our own bias from the discussion. It's a very helpful way for me to get Roger to come up with his own metaphors, for everybody to come up with their own thoughts and their own things. So you come up with the results. They're not my results. And clean language is challenging. It's because we all want to influence others, right? I want you to think like me, because then I'm not so weird. Okay, maybe I'm still weird, but anyway. So David Grove came up with these wonderful questions. And here's something that you can try if you want to. I tried this. You can take these questions, write them down on a piece of paper, or write them down on an index card or something, and write them down, and the next time you're stuck on a big problem, you're struggling with something, flip them over and grab a card randomly and ask the question. It's really it's that simple. I've done this when I was trying to make a big decision, and it really helped me make some breakthroughs. So this is something that you could use pretty quickly and try it. And just, when that happens, whereabouts? Where is it? Where you feel frustrated, where's that frustration coming from? And you can also ask the sequence. Oh, you're frustrated. Oh, they pissed you off? What happened right before that? What happens right before that? Where does that come from? These are all very simple questions, but we forget because we want to influence others. So clean language can be very, very powerful, and I highly recommend it. Attributes. What kind of frustration is that? What kind of problem is that? Narrow it down. What else is there about that frustration that you're feeling? And notice, by asking these very simple questions, it's difficult for me to impart my own feeling. So that's why they're called clean language, because they're not dirty questions. And by the way, do not look up dirty questions at the firm network on the internet. I did that once. That was, whoo! Yeah, some flags went off on that one. So because you will not get answers on dirty questions. Well, you might, but just not the ones you're thinking about. Sequence after and metaphors. This is one of my favorite. That's like what? That frustration, that's like what? I didn't even ask. Can you guys hear me back there? Okay, good. I didn't, because there's a microphone here, and I should have asked, but I know I speak. Dan knows. I bellow across the room, so my voice carries. But often that's like what? That feeling, that frustration. What's that like? And it helps people get to where they want to be. We often hear in coaching, accept the person is whole, accept the person has the answers. But then we often impart our own wisdom because we want to go into therapy, we want to solve problems. So clean language is a wonderful thing to try to help adjust mindset. And if people get frustrated because you're asking questions, make sure it's okay, because maybe they do just tell me what to do, right? So stop asking. So make sure you're in the right space. So you might need to ask permission, but then ask these. Now here's some other language that I found very, very powerful. Who's familiar with this guy, David Marquet? You guys are familiar with any of the SAFE training? Turn the ship around. Turn the ship around. That's what most people are familiar with. So this guy was an admiral in the U.S. Navy. And there was a submarine that had the worst crew in the Navy. And they had gone through about 3 admirals already. So they dropped him in there, because I think he pissed somebody off. They dropped him in there and said, here, you deal with it. And he was struggling. He couldn't figure out what to do. So eventually he just said, you know what? You guys know what to do. I'm just going to empower you. I don't have the ability to learn everything there is to know about a nuclear submarine in whatever short time frame he had. So he took this group of misfits and empowered them. And that's what he's most famous for. He empowered them. He started talking about the intent. Here's what we're trying to do. What do you think we should do? What do you think we should do? And guess what? They knew what to do. They'd been on the damn submarine for years. They knew what to do. They just had leadership trying to tell them what to do, and that didn't work out very well. But he also wrote this book, Leadership is Language. And I've heard mixed results from this because some people hate the book. They hate his writing style. I go back and forth between audibles and reading. It's pretty good. It's pretty good audible. Now, I listen to audibles at like 2 times speed, but it's pretty good at that speed, 1.5, 2 times. So the book might be a little slow. I use the book for reference now. I actually have not tried to read the whole thing cover to cover, but I have listened to the audible cover to cover, and the book's pretty good. But some of the things that he uses is, there's judgmental language and there's observation language, which can be very powerful. Judgmental is, this is really poor quality. You need to step up your game. But more observational is, well, I found 3 errors. You're not judging, not telling anybody what's good quality, poor quality, anything else. You're just making an observation. It's hard to argue with an observation when it's correct. And, as opposed to you need to step up your game, well, you know what? You tried something and the results are unchanged. What are we going to do next? Not you failed. You guys screwed up. Well, that didn't work, dummies. The results are unchanged. Simple observation. It's hard to become defensive. It's hard to get people to be angry about that. So move on. And now we're going to go through a little table you can use because he's created 7 ways to ask better questions. And the questions can be very powerful. Now, if you think about the story that I told you at the beginning, if Mike tried to explain to Mr. Thomas that the worst thing that could happen, we could only lose $3,500, and it wouldn't be that bad, they could have argued about that all day. But when he asked the very powerful question, what's the worst that could happen? Made Mr. Thomas think. Right? So he had to think. So instead of stacking questions, try asking one question and be done with it. Meaning one and done, one and listen. Stacking questions is terribly hard for me. With my ADHD, my brain goes much, much faster than my mouth. And so I just start rambling sometimes. Have you ever been asked a stack question? You know what I'm talking about with stack questions, don't you? You've seen it. Do you remember how you felt with stack questions? They couldn't answer any of them because I kept asking questions. You've done that, haven't you? We've all done that, haven't you? Especially with our kids. We've done it with our kids, right? So we do that all the time. Just ask a question and let it sit there and listen. Because what's the point in asking a question if you don't want the answer? And that's not easy for me, being quiet. Instead of a teaching moment, maybe switch it to a learning moment. And a teaching moment is I'm the teacher, I'm teaching you. You need to learn what I'm telling you. Okay, you screwed up, I'm telling you this is what you learned, right? No. We can just ask the question. Remember, just what was learned? What can we learn from this? Just leave it out there. I'm not here to tell you what you're supposed to learn. You're smart enough, right? Something happens. And dirty questions. This is one you might like, the dirty questions. So dirty questions versus clean questions. Dirty questions are, obviously you know what a dirty question is. A dirty question is simple. You must know what that is, right? That just puts people on the defensive. And often we should be asking questions that no one knows the answer to yet. Powerful questions are questions where no one knows the answer. So instead of asking dirty questions, just ask clean questions. Binary questions. Is this good? No. Yeah, yes or no questions. Ask open-ended questions. Start with what? What is good about this situation? What is not great about this situation? What can we change about this situation? What can we learn? And as opposed to why did you do that? Why do you always do that? change the thought to, tell me more. Something was happening there. Tell me more about it. So what else can you tell me? As opposed to why. What was going on there? Now, what were you thinking? You've heard that one. Yeah, you're shaking. Right. And self-affirming questions. We love self-affirming questions. Change those to self-educating questions. Self-affirming questions are, this is great, right? This is a great list, right? I just want you to agree with me. I'm not asking you a question. Just agree with me. Just tell me this is a wonderful list. You've done that. You're smiling. You're laughing, right? So it happens. So self-educating question is, what is great about this list? What could be better about this list? How might you use this? So we try to switch it, and instead of asking these deep, dirty questions. And here's another one, jumping to the future, which we often do. We often, and this is not necessarily with just asking questions, but we dig in and immediately say, well, what is it that you want this to be? What is it that you really want? Right? And that can be very challenging. But if we start with the present, well, here's where we are. Here's our current state. Here's where we are. Let's talk about the past. Here's how we got here. And now, once we have a flow, once we have a baseline in grounding in history and reality, then ask what the future can hold. So based on where we are, make sure you have some alignment first before you jump to the future. So these are all very powerful, very good. You can try them. They're in his book. You can take a picture of the slide. And the worst one for me is the stacking questions. I love that because I'll ask 20 questions in a row and not even think about it. And sometimes you need to ask one question and be quiet. Did I tell you my Indonesia story? So back even before I guess it was the late 90s, I'm doing a talk on data security. You know what an exciting topic that is. And I'm in Jakarta, Indonesia. And so we're doing training, so I talk for an hour or two, and then it's time to take a break. And they told me, when you take a break, and it's ready to break, and it's time to ask for questions, you have to stay there and be quiet for 3 to 5 minutes. That's not my style. And so, I asked, are there any questions? And I'm standing there, and I'm in an auditorium that is half empty. The auditorium should hold 200 people. I'm on stage, and there's probably like 30. So that was uncomfortable as is. And I'm standing there for 3 minutes. And Dan knows being quiet is not my strong suit. And I'm standing there, and then all of a sudden I see somebody start to write. I'm like, maybe something is happening. And then after about 4 minutes, a hand goes up. They needed to formulate their answers. But man, it was 4 minutes. It felt like 4 hours to me. It was so uncomfortable. I want to talk. And we all probably do, especially when you're the one that's supposed to have the answers. Right? Scrum Masters, you're supposed to have the answer. Consultants, product owners, coaches, we're supposed to have the answer. Leaders, we're supposed to have the answers. We're supposed to be the answer guy. We see it on TV all the time. But sometimes you need to ask a question and just wait for the answer, as uncomfortable as that may be. All right. Now, we went through this pretty quick. We have time for question and answers. But some of the things that we want to make sure we covered, what mindset do you want? Think about the mindset that you want, and you don't always have to be there. It's okay. Think about what mindset you want for your teams, and use some of these language skills we just talked about to help move the teams, to help embrace the teams. And take control of your own language. It's important to take control of your own language because we are the ones that can move it. I don't care what position you are on your team, you are a leader. You have the opportunity to lead, so lead by example. Take control of the language, and that includes the language in your head, those voices in your head, okay? Have them talk nice to you too. Ask more questions. And when you ask a question, just shut up, just listen. I know it's not easy. But most importantly, no matter where you are, no matter where your teams are, no matter what's happening, just be kind. It's the most important thing I can share with you. Just be kind to others. We don't know what other people are going through. All right, we've got 11 minutes for questions.
We're not going to make you wait 5 minutes. Yeah.
You can't. What else can I share? Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk a little bit more about going back and forth between an agile mindset and a fixed mindset and when that's okay, but also how to not stay there?
So the question is, can I talk about going back and forth between an agile mindset and a fixed mindset and what might happen there and how to move from one to the other? Okay, so sometimes it's just necessary. Have you guys gone through a lot of change? Sometimes you're just like, man, it's too much change fatigue. Or sometimes you just have a lot on your mind, you're feeling kind of frustrated, and you just don't want to think a lot, right? So it's okay. Sometimes we just want to fall back into our fixed mindset. There's nothing wrong with that. We just don't want to stay there forever, right? And so what's important is realizing that we're in a fixed mindset, and it's okay. Now, if we're in a fixed mindset and we realize we've been in a fixed mindset for about 6 months, well, maybe it's time to get off your ass and do something about it. But that's another story. But start thinking about what you can do. Start thinking about what is keeping me in the fixed mindset. What is it that I can do to grow? What is it we can do next? And maybe ask some of the clean questions. I'm feeling stuck right now. I'm kind of in a fixed. So what's that like? Ask yourself. Go through those questions. Ask yourself. And your teams will often be stuck. Sometimes teams will be defeated. Have you guys felt defeated? You guys felt that nothing can change because the org around you will not change or it won't change for your teams? It happens. It's okay. But start talking about the things that you can change. Well, what could we change? What are some of the things we can do? We can't change everything at once, right? That's why time exists. If time didn't exist, everything would happen at once, but sorry, can't. So just start, and be kind to yourself. Don't get angry at yourself. Just start moving forward. And if your teams are stuck, do the same thing. Start changing the language. Start asking those powerful questions. And when you ask the powerful questions, shut up and listen. Yes, I'm going to repeat that. That's mostly for me. When I repeat that, that's mostly for myself. What else can I share? Yes, ma'am. That's a great question. So besides modeling and doing this just with yourself, how can you bring others along with you? Awareness. One is you can share any of these stories. I'll send you a copy of the slides. I think there are copies of the slides. So I'm happy to share that. You could also play the clean language game with them. Go ahead and create all the cards. Put them out on a table. If you're on a mural board or a Miro board, you can randomize the questions. Excel spreadsheets are really good for you put them all down there. So you've done that. So bring people along. Help them understand the tools and techniques that you're using and that will work for you. And ask people, look, where do we want to be right now? And the team might say, you know what? Right now we're under a lot of pressure. We have a tight delivery date. How about we just stay in this fixed mindset for the next 6 weeks until we deliver this? Would that be okay? Maybe, but figure out what it is, and then start thinking about what will we do at the end of this 6 weeks now to go to the next step. Was that a helpful answer? Okay, good. What else can I share?
How can we get the slides?
Oh, how can you get the slides? I think they're going to be provided by Agile and Beyond, but if not, please reach out to me at Steve Moubray on LinkedIn. I'm happy to share. And yeah, I probably should have put a easier way there, but yeah. Moubray, M-O-U-B-R-A-Y. And I'll be happy to send these to you. What else? Dan's tired of listening to me. He's like, there's that management challenge we had. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if there's nothing else, you can have 6 minutes back. Thank you. Thank you all. And I am really so grateful for all of you to be here. I know you could be anywhere here. There's lots of great talks. So thank you all so much.